Hello, everybody.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Morning.
Good morning.
This is Khalil Qataune.
Hi, Khalil. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Did you arrive, Amman?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone in the United States. Welcome to this special event today to talk about virtual exchange in higher education, especially in terms of what Bridgewater State is trying to implement in terms of course exchanges with international universities. My name is Dr. Wing Kai-to. I'm the Assistant Provost for Global Engagement. And I'm really glad that today we have a very international audience. So I know it's very early for us in the United States, but it's also a little bit late in Asia. And I'm very pleased to introduce a few special guests here from different universities. We have guests from Japan, South Korea, China, Morocco, Jordan, and these 5 countries who are here from 6 or 7 partner universities. So especially our speakers would come from Tokyo Gakuge University. Dr. Naoki Suzuki is going to be one of the speakers, who's a professor, associate professor of physical education. And then we have Professor Sun-Ho Park from Yonsei University, Miri Campus, and as the Associate Professor of International Relations. And also they're joined by their colleagues in the International Center. And we also have guests from China. We have our Director for the International Center, Mr. Chen Wu, and also Ms. Helen Zhang from Shanghai Normal University, who are joining us today. In addition, we have our guests from Jordan. We have Professor Khalid Kadawa and also Buthina. They're from Tafila Technical University. And then we also have our guests from Yarmouk University and also from Morocco. So it's a very international audience. We also wanted to welcome Mr. John Fowler, who's the institutional mentor for virtual exchange and COIL initiatives. And so I will not be introducing them one by one. And of course, we're joined by 5 of our own colleagues here. And I will be speaking. And in addition, Michael Sandy, Director of Study Abroad, Professor Karen Richardson in Physical Education, Professor In-Kyung Kim from Political Science, and also Professor Jabal Albaidi from Communication Studies, and the Academic Director of Global Programs will also be speaking. So without further ado, let's start. And I just wanted to share a screen right now. So we'll first talk about BSU's new virtual global engagement initiatives. So I will give you a very quick overview, and also Mike Sandy will also join me to talk about this. And then Mr. John Fowler would explain what is virtual exchange. And then we have 2 pilot projects. One is our project with Japan, with Tokyo Gakuge University in Japan. And the second pilot project is with Yonsei University. And then we'll also mention other potential university partnerships in other parts of the world. And finally, we will have some thoughts about what are the next steps for our spring semester. And then we have a Q&A quickly. As we know that COVID-19 has created a lot of crisis for our university, for higher education in general, especially for global engagement. We are facing both a public health crisis and an economic crisis right now for many universities. As you know, since the global pandemic started in March, we have been facing a lot of problems for getting students here and for sending our students abroad. Because of all the travel warnings and restrictions, it's very hard for us to send any students abroad. In fact, Bridgewater State University has also suspended travels for faculty and students through the academic year. So this year, we are not able to send our students abroad, even though we can still accept students in the spring semester on a limited basis. Because of certain government policies, we're also facing some hurdles of getting student visas to come to our countries, to come to our universities. So with the suspension of study abroad and the reduction of international students, we have to reimagine our global engagement and focus a lot more on online and hybrid learning, not just throughout the university. As you know, over 90% of our classes right now are using online format and totally remote. But we also want to explore virtual engagement internationally. So in order to think about that, we're facing a lot of crisis right now. So we cannot go abroad, but we can actually think about how we can save by not traveling, but also developing these programs for students. So everyone can have an equal opportunity to get into these programs. So yesterday, our provost has sent a message to the entire college community about the new directions of our Global Engagement Institute. We're developing 1 year of what we call the virtual global learning experiences. We wanted to focus on supporting our students through advising and student services. We communicate with them regularly in both our study abroad and international student and scholar services. We offer a lot of lectures and webinars on campus for students and to enrich their teaching and learning. We also developed 3 virtual study abroad or global learning opportunities. The first is what we call virtual international internships, and Mike Sandy can just give a little bit more discussion later. The second is what is the focus today, virtual collaborative exchanges. And then Mr. John Fowler would explain this in a lot more detail. And finally, we have an idea about cross-registration of classes with our partner universities, which is called virtual course exchanges. So these are some of the ideas we are exploring. So now I turn to Mike. Mike will talk about the efforts in the Study Abroad Office for organizing virtual international course collaboration and also course registration with virtual international partner courses. And Mr. John Fowler from the American Council on Education will discuss different models of virtual exchange and how BSU can build on our pilot projects to develop virtual exchanges across the university. Thank you. So I turn to Mike.
Thank you, Winkai. Good morning, good evening, everybody. So as Winkai had mentioned, we are really looking at how we can leverage the current situation to keep our students and our communities and campuses engaged. And one key way we're doing that, as Winkai had mentioned, is the virtual global internships. We're partnered with our internship office and 3 of our study abroad program providers. And we're offering students opportunities to virtually complete internships around the globe in Europe, Latin America, Australia, New Zealand. So far, it's the outcomes are positive. Students are learning from their internships. They're gaining the experiences they need, and they're not missing out on the critical opportunities to gain those global competencies and workplace skills that they need in their juniors and senior years. And as Winkai mentioned, the other initiative we're looking at is taking our standard traditional exchange model and paring that down to a virtual course-based exchange with our exchange partners around the world. So we're imagining students at both universities having the opportunity to take most of their classes at their home campus and then also registering for an online class at a partner university. So in that regard, they could pick up a very unique class, have an international intercultural experience with peers and around the world, and learn from colleagues and faculty on specific topic areas. As one example, we could imagine with our partner at Acadia University in Canada, students who would want to continue on with their French class could finish our French class and then move on to French 2 or 3 at Acadia. We might be working with the University of Limerick to have very unique Irish studies-based classes offered to our students to help them fulfill on their Irish studies classes. And you can see this kind of taking through the disciplines, and it would be a very unique opportunity. So we are working through the logistics and the administration of it. We have a couple of university partners that are already interested. And of course, as we talk to colleagues today, we would be glad to follow up and talk further and see where else we could have these opportunities. So thank you. I'll turn it over to Dr. John Fowler. Dr. Fowler.
Thank you, Mike. Can everybody hear me okay, hopefully? And I want to send a big thank you out to Winkai, Michael, and Jabbar for inviting me to join you all today. It's a wonder to see so many faces from so many countries represented here. I think it's maybe the most countries of a Zoom call I've been on in quite some time. I'm always excited and happy to see and be able to speak to new audiences about virtual exchange and COIL. I've been working in the higher education world for about 20 years, supporting faculty, staff, and institutions to create innovative technology-based educational opportunities. The last 10 years or so, I've been working in the virtual exchange COIL realm, including 6 years at the SUNY COIL Center. I joined the American Council on Education on a part-time basis in July to help facilitate a rapid response virtual exchange COIL lab between the US and Japan, which gave me the opportunity to work with folks here from BSU as well as in Tokyo Gakugai. For 100+ years, ACE has been serving as the major coordinating body for US higher education and has long advocated cost-effective and accessible uses of technology to advance global learning, intercultural skills, and cross-border collaborations. This includes 15+ years of incentivizing and supporting the uptake of COIL. With the emergence, as Winkai aptly mentioned earlier in his remarks, the emergence and global spread of COVID-19 has really led to broad global societal changes. And as 2021 approaches, much of the world's students are physically and socially isolated and unable to study on campus or abroad, and thus are unable to build and develop deeper relationships with one another or meaningful ways to connect with the rest of the world. So we have to work together to find ways to still reach our international education goals while more traditional forms of physical mobility and academic exchange continue to remain suspended. For those of us working in this field, it's been wonderful because it's been a dramatic increase in COIL and virtual exchange as a result. But to give you a little more background, COIL stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. It was coined in the early 2000s, and one of the leaders in this field, the SUNY COIL Center, was founded in 2006 by a film and new media professor named John Rubin from SUNY's Purchase College. But the general ideas around virtual exchange have been around even longer, really since the invention of the internet, and arguably even longer if you consider pen pals, which some of you on this call may have actually had growing up in exchange with folks around the world. There's many different names that have developed around these modalities, such as telecollaboration and the language learning movement, globally networked learning, online intercultural exchanges. But as a field, we've been coalescing around the term virtual exchange as an umbrella to sort of encompass all these different forms of exchange that involve technology. But the common thread across all of those modalities is collaboration between educators and collaboration between their students. So I have a short video I'd like to share with you today, which was created by our colleagues at the Evolve project, which is funded by the European Commission's Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange projects, which gives an overview of virtual exchange at COIL. Give me just one moment while I start the screen share.
As teachers, we want our students to be able to grow within a complex and rapidly changing world. How can we help them to achieve the best employment opportunities while developing themselves as human beings who are respectful of others? Research has identified a set of competencies which are key to reaching these important goals. These are being able to collaborate with others, being able to communicate in different languages with people from other cultural backgrounds, and being able to use digital technologies efficiently. How can we help our students develop all these skills? Virtual exchange is a teaching and learning practice that precisely addresses these key competencies. In virtual exchange, learners in different countries or cultural backgrounds connect through digital technologies and work together online, in pairs or small groups, on learning tasks developed by their teachers. What does a virtual exchange look like? First, the teachers on each side collaborate to design the virtual exchange. Together, they match calendars and design online activities intended to help students achieve the learning goals of their courses. In their respective classes, the teachers prepare students for the virtual exchange. Each class is split into smaller working groups which are paired with a group from the other university. In these smaller groups, they prepare to start working together on the project. Starting with an icebreaker activity, the students get to know each other and establish a meaningful relationship that will enable them to work towards a common goal during the virtual exchange. In this first activity, students also get familiar with the digital tool or tools they'll be using. After each online activity, the students in each group can share their experiences with their own classmates and reflect on the process. The teacher or facilitator supervises the students' progress and makes sure the international collaboration is going smoothly. During the following online encounters, the students continue collaborating autonomously towards the completion of the final task with some degree of supervision from the teacher. Depending on the course discipline and learning goals, this final task can have multiple forms and contents. Possible scenarios include medical science students writing a joint essay comparing how patients are attended in the two countries, or Mexican and English students who are learning each other's languages create a video inviting others to visit their city. Or students of web design in one class, together with students from business in the other class, create a website for a company together. The possibilities are endless. At the end of the project, students share the outcomes of their work and reflect upon what they've learned. Now that you have a better idea of what virtual exchange entails, imagine what it would look like in your course.
Give me just a moment to stop the share. So I hope that video gave you some idea of what virtual exchange COIL can encompass and what some of the possibilities there are. It's investing more resources in the creation of COIL and virtual exchange type partnerships can provide flexibility to higher education to be able to better react to our continually shifting world situations. Regardless of world health conditions, finances, and other factors, through COIL, students can still interact and collaborate. And COIL can also help better prepare our students for when physical exchange and travel are possible again. When Kai mentioned there's the Rapid Response Lab that we were a part of, working together hosted by the American Council on Education, and this new reality prompted ACE to create the US-Japan Rapid Response Lab in partnership with Kansai University's Institute for Innovative Global Education. The lab involved 14 US institutions, most of which were very new to virtual exchange, partnering with 12 Japanese higher education institutions, some of which were also quite new to virtual exchange, but some of which have been doing this type of work for several years, including Bridgewater State and Tokyo Gakugai. It was a 3-month professional development programs to help the institutions adapt from physical exchange to a virtual exchange modality. And at the heart of the US-Japan Lab was an intensive 3-week professional development program. And it was one of the first programs that was specifically designed to have parallel tracks, one for instructors working with their curriculum developers or instructional designers, and a parallel track for folks from international administration and international education. The focus was on developing course and institutional level understanding of virtual exchange COIL, including looking at examples and best practices from practitioners and institutions around the world to help participants conceptualize and develop their virtual exchange COIL programs and courses. And at the heart of the lab and in any virtual exchange COIL program really are teaching partnerships. You can't improvise a COIL course in isolation or in a very short period of time. It is a complex model to put into place and requires bottom-up initiative from the professors involved, coupled with top-down support and institutional infrastructure. And to be successful requires teachers working together in equitable partnerships to co-create and co-facilitate experiences for both groups of their students to come together. So I have a second video I actually would like to play for you from the Qatar Foundation International, which outlines some of the key elements in the virtual exchange COIL partnership process. So again, bear with me while I move to the screen share.
There is always much to be learned from teachers who've traveled before you. Those who've practiced virtual exchange advise that the success of your journey depends on clear communication and a sincere connection with your partner teacher. So how can you set the journey up for success? When you initiate communication, clearly state your goals and be sure to fully understand the goals of your partner. You want to engage in a mutual collaboration so both classes are sharing ownership and fully committing to the project. Listen deeply. Deep listening is a practice that is non-judgmental and seeks to understand. Get to know each other right away, even if the launch of the project is months down the road. You can exchange emails that include details about your life, such as hobbies, favorite foods, movies, or books. You can also share your values, aspirations, and what you believe is important about your culture. You'll also want to express curiosity about your partner's culture. To build trust and personal connection, be sure to ask questions, avoid assumptions, suspend judgment, and respond specifically to statements. Another key practice while you and your partner are planning the project is to have frequent check-ins and to be flexible with one another. Establishing positive relationships early also make partners more resilient when challenges arise, such as when you need to change course. Most importantly, you and your partner are modeling for students how to collaborate effectively across cultures. In fact, teachers and students can design the project together, using student interests as a compass for the journey. Involving students in the project design supports their ownership of the project, builds upon their natural curiosity, brings relevance to their daily lives, and fosters empathy and deeper cultural understanding. Now here's some advice from those teachers who've traveled before you. Start small and scale up. Be explicit about who does what and when. Be clear about time commitments. What might seem small for you may be large for someone else. Use an online meeting planner to schedule chats in different time zones. Know when schools are in session. Different hemispheres have opposite schedules. And most importantly, a global project is not just worked out on one side. It requires mutual trust and understanding in the design and implementation of the project. You'll be both traveler and guide on this adventure. Remember, there are teachers who've already made this journey, and they stand ready to help you navigate your way.
Bear with me a moment while I stop the share. So I hope those videos have given you some quick understanding, we'll say, of virtual exchange COIL and some of its possibilities, but also what it really entails to do this type of work. It really is that collaborative piece, which is in collaborative online learning, is really at the heart of this work, both from the professors working together as well as the students learning to collaborate and experience what it is to work with people from another culture. So I want to thank you all for listening today. I look forward to hearing your questions later on in the session. With that, I'll hand it back to Mike or Wing Kai to introduce our next panelists who will actually be speaking about some of their partnerships. Thank you all very much.
So now it's time to have our team from Japan, Professor Dr. Karen Richardson and Dr. Naoki Suzuki. As John Fuller mentioned, they have been working since July on this official COIL project. And this project entails cooperation for at least 6 weeks in the fall semester. And so when Karen and Naoki are ready, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Wenkai. We really appreciate that. I would encourage everyone before we get involved in our presentation, don't be afraid to put your hands over your head, stretch, get the oxygen going to your brain. Don't forget we're also bodies inside of our minds. So take that moment to sort of, get the oxygen sort of flowing. So, because we have great things to talk about today. So I just always want to remind you of that. So thank you so much for having Dr. Suzuki and I have a chance to share the collaborative work that we're doing. So our presentation is titled Collaboration of Students in Physical Education Between Japan and the US. You can change the screen. Teamwork. So I'm Karen Richardson, and I am a professor in the Department of Movement Arts, Health, Motion, and Leisure Studies at Bridgewater State University. And my esteemed colleague is Dr. Naoki Suzuki, and he is an associate professor at Tokyo Gakugei University. We're both physical education teacher educators, and we also share a common interest in research. We're both very much interested in promoting what we call game-based learning internationally. And this is an approach to teaching that really foregrounds decision-making and student autonomy and the role of the teacher as a facilitator. And so for about the last 10 years, we have worked together. We have traveled back and forth to each other's institutions. I've been to Tokyo Gakugei 4 times now, and Naoki has been to Bridgewater, I think 4 times as well. So I put that as a backdrop because we do have a relationship that goes for about 10 years. And we have had a common practice of sharing ideas around research, deeply committed to try to understand the teaching and learning process in our schools in both Japan and in the US. So I think that's been a really important piece for helping our collaboration work well. We can change the screen. We also draw on each other's strengths. Naoki's much better with technology than I am, so we work that way. So let me tell you a little bit about our process. So in July, we were awarded the grant to sort of create the COIL project. And we worked pretty diligently from July through September to sort of bring the idea to life. So I think that Naoki and I were a natural sort of collaboration because we had a long, we've been working together for years. It took us a while to then decide sort of, what are our shared learning outcomes that we wanted for the project. And we had to get a sense of what the semester looked like in Japan and where we were at Bridgewater. So after we identified some of our shared learning outcomes, then we really worked using the Immerse U learning platform, which Naoki will talk about in the future, next few minutes. And that's where we developed our course syllabus. The next piece of the project really involved recruiting students. And we have 2 different types of students here. The students at Bridgewater are all enrolled in a course that I teach. They're enrolled in a 300 level curriculum course in physical education. This year I have 33 students. Naoki recruited his students. He made a special call for students to engage in this process, and he has 15 students who are collaborating with my students. And we had a chance to get started on the actual course, the collaboration in October. So we're about a week and a half into our course running. So Naoki, you can change. And then you're up next.
Okay, I'm going to tell you our background of creating a new style course. That is the reason why we are implementing the COIL program. We are currently on the serious situation because of the pandemic. It's a very stressful and challenging situation. I'm doing all of my classes online for the spring semester and fall semesters. I initially thought of online classes as a just alternative to face-to-face classes. However, in the course of implementing my online classes, I have found that they can be more effective than face-to-face classes if we are creative in how we do them. I also attended more international conferences and meetings than usual during the spring semester. It saved me a lot of time and money. It allowed me to facilitate the sharing of research information. Through these experiences, I wanted to take advantage of the positive aspects of online education. In this context, Dr. To from BSU invited me to participate in the COIL program training, and Karen and I decided to develop a platform for students from the US and Japan to learn together with the support of the American Council of Education. Over 2 months, starting in September, we designed the engagement between Japanese and American students, reviewed activities and assessment, and developed a syllabus. We devised a balance of synchronous and asynchronous classes to help students achieve their goals. There are 2 goals for this initiative. One is that through cross-cultural exchange, students from Japan and the US collaborate and work together as global students in the field of physical education. Another is that our goal is to create the future of physical education by questioning the meaning of its existence. At BSU, Karen have built this initiative into her regular class. However, in Japan, the classes to obtain a teacher's license must be conducted in Japanese. Therefore, I decided to offer this class as an optional class, special class that does not receive credit. As you know, so many Japanese people are not very good at speaking English. Therefore, I was worried about the number of participants, but not only physical education majors, but also students from other majors are interested in this class. A total of 32 students from BSU and 16 students from Tokyo Gakuyu University are participating in this program. TGU students include 2 in-service teachers for elementary school and senior high school, and international exchange teachers from Thailand and South Korea. Now, so let's move on to the specific of our course. I am going to tell you our learning management system. We decided to use ImmerseU as a learning platform for both TGU and BSU students. The learning management system allows us to display items in both English and Japanese. This allows us to reduce a language barrier a little bit. In the coffee shop, students can discuss the topic. For example, I set up a topic, how to spend your time in the COVID-19 disaster. This is just like a chat room where students can write their own comments and others can add to them. So the chat room also allows students to share messages with the whole class. A calendar can also be used to write the class schedule so that participants don't forget to attend. Lesson assignments can be presented in connected lessons. For example, I assigned direction in week 1. Students can submit these assignments through ImmerseU. There are a variety of different types of assignments, and we can select an appropriate activity according to the learning context. Submitted assignments will be displayed under student submissions. We can read their reflections if we select the student name. So students are divided in 8 groups, and they can use student groups to communicate with each group. They can use student groups to keep in touch with each group, and they can send emails and messages to all groups members at once. Files that we want to share with our students can be uploaded to the connected files. On the student side, so they can also to see the profiles of other students. This is useful for communicating with students as it shows not only their names, but also their pictures. As you can see, ImmerseU is very powerful LMS for students from different universities to engage with each other. We designed our classes to use ImmerseU to encourage communication between different students, allowing students to interact and learn more. We are still exploring the potential of ImmerseU ourselves, but we feel it has great potential to be utilized. Okay, next, so Karen.
Great, thank you, Naoki. So just to give you a sense of our plan for the semester, again, as I said, we started last week with some getting to know you activities. And then the students during the second week, they are now meeting with their groups at their own time. And they are in a shared project where they're doing some sharing about some sort of cultural differences. We'll meet again with them next week, and they will have a chance to do some presentations of what they created. And then they'll work autonomously for a couple weeks, and they will be sharing some videos of what physical education looks like. They will then engage in sort of some critique of what are some of the challenges of physical education, both in Japan and in the US. And then we really build to all this is setting the foundation for their final project, where the groups will work together to co-plan a physical education lesson that kind of solves the problems that both countries are facing in education. And then we'll sort of feature those lessons, and we'll have a chance to reflect on that. So that's our schedule between now and December. So just kind of a little, again, a closer look at week 1 and 2. We each created an icebreaker. So what was great is Naoki did an icebreaker that was common in Japan, and our students really enjoyed that. And I did a movement based getting to know you activity. So we had a chance to sort of move and learn and say each other's names. We did use breakout groups with in Zoom, which students really appreciated. So we really were able to sort of get students connecting and collaborating. You can change the screen. And then I think you're up, Dr. Suzuki. Or I can do this. Okay, good to go. Great.
Yeah, so go ahead. So I don't know if I'm prepared to my presentation for this slide.
Oh, don't worry. So just to sort of get a sense. So again, we are encouraging our students this week are really working on the ImmerseU platform. They are collaborating with their group on their own. And what was great is a week into it, the students already are excited about this work together. They are creating their presentations using a Google extension called Jamboard or Miro. So we'll be looking at those products that they produce next week when we have our face-to-face class. Great. Becky, you can change. So I do want to share with you some of the quotes, at least from my students. They really found the first part of the experience exciting. So we have, one student says, I think it's really interesting and exciting to be working with students from another culture. I know that I have never done anything like this before, and I'm interested to see how different PE is. And I think we have to be honest, like it says, at first I was really nervous about it, but once I saw everyone, we all started interacting. I grew more and more excited. We got to learn a little bit about our partner and how their daily lives are different. So clearly my students, or our students entered the experience with some nerves, I love this last one. I was nervous to not understand each other, but it was really nice to figure out how to communicate and have a good conversation. It was particularly important because my students are feeling isolated, and the fact that they were able to have these connections and really feel like it was something new and their world was opening up in new ways. It's always important. It seemed even more important last week that this is an exciting piece of our class moving towards the end of the semester. So we can change. So, oh, this one, oh, okay, this is from your group. I don't know if you want to talk about this, I'm sorry.
You can talk about week 2. So I just get this slide from my students. So your student made it. Okay.
So this is some of the work the students have co-created. Again, on a Jamboard that they're highlighting some of the similarities and differences. So there's certainly what's great is that many of them met last night just on their own, and here's the work they're already co-creating. So it'd be exciting to see what we have next week when they share. So Naoki and I just want to thank everyone for listening. We're thrilled to have this collaboration. Of course, we long for the days where our students can be traveling between our two universities, but we also are really pleased with how a virtual exchange is certainly an equitable experience. I have 33 students who may not have had a chance to actually do an exchange had we not been doing this in a virtual setting. So happy to talk with people about the program. It's really exciting. It's one of my highlights of the fall semester. So I hope this encourages more faculty to sort of get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen and Naoki, for your very clear and interesting presentation. So now it's our turn to our colleagues from South Korea and our professor, Dr. Kim in the Political Science Department, and also Dr. Park from Yonsei University, Miri campus.
Okay, I was muted. I'm sorry. Thank you everyone for joining this morning. And thank you, Jabbar, and thank you, Winkai, for inviting us to this event to present our kind of plan. We haven't started yet. Our actual week starts from next week, so it's a little early to share. But I've already learned a lot from other presenters, which is great. My name is In-kyung Kim. I'm from Bridgewater State University. I'm teaching in political science. And Dr. Park, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone. This is Song Park from Yonsei University, South Korea. I'm teaching international relations here, and it's specialized in European politics and economic integrations. And it turns out that In-kyung and I shared some common interest in terms of the sharing some contents with each other for students. And I'm teaching on this semester the American politics, and In-kyung is teaching comparative politics, and we found some overlaps in certain weeks of contents. So we figured that why don't we share our content with each other and provide some students from each side for opportunities to have some opportunities of some interactive international learning. And then that's how this project started.
So our project title is International Debates. Okay. Before getting into our project, I want to introduce these two international partnerships. Bridgewater State University has two Korean partners. One is Yonsei University, Mira campus, and the other is Gyeongbuk National University. I have chosen Yonsei University for the specific partnership this semester because I have developed very tight relationships throughout the years. Those relationships has been developed through the extensive support by the Winkai's office. I was awarded the Global Engagement Grant by the Minnak Institute for Global Engagement in 2017. So thanks to this grant, I was able to invite Dr. Park to teach 1 week in our class in my comparative government in 2008. In exchange, I went to one of Yonsei University's classes and I did lecture, and I also had a research seminar. So about 7 faculty got together and they presented their most recent research, and I actually recorded the whole session and I uploaded those recording on Blackboard. So while I was gone, my students were assigned to watch the recording, and they were exposed to the 7 different research topics that different faculty were doing. Students were fascinated to learn of all those new research topics. That was one of the activities that we did through the Global Engagement Grant. And as a follow-up, after being inspired by these two kind of movements, Dr. Park and I were kind of excited to develop summer faculty exchange program between these two departments: political science at Bridgewater State University and international relations department from Yonsei University. So we launched the new summer faculty exchange program in 2019. So as a pilot program, I visited Yonsei University and I spent 3 weeks to teach 1 course. And Dr. Park visited Bridgewater State University. Another professor, he visited our university and taught 1 summer course. And then we have set up summer 2020, another professor from my department and Dr. Park was supposed to come to Bridgewater, but because of the COVID-19, that summer exchange program was canceled. But what I want to say here, our virtual exchange didn't come from nowhere. We have gradually developed since 2017. So based on this tight relationship, we got a chance to brainstorm together about how to develop our virtual exchange program. So International Debates 2020. So starting from 2017, we've arrived at international debates idea in 2020. 2 classes in 2 countries. So as Professor Park introduced himself, he is teaching American government and economy this semester through the Department of International Relations, Yonsei Universities in South Korea. He has 15 students. I am teaching comparative government through political science department at BSU. We have 13 students. So very, surprisingly, we have very similar size of classes, which is exciting. And then we have scheduled 3 meetings in 3 weeks. Week 10, which is the following week, November 4th, we will have ice-breaking session. So we will have very brief session, like 30 minutes. I will introduce what kind of activities we will do briefly, shortly. And week 11, we will have the first international debate night, actually. It's a Sunday night. To be honest, I was nervous to ask my students to meet on Sunday night. So in the very first week of our semester, I asked my students if they are happy about this plan. Surprisingly, I only saw all the big smiles on the screen. They got it, and they were all in this plan. So instead of Sunday football night, we are gonna have the Sunday international debate. Students are excited. We will talk about presidentialism versus parliamentarism. So which system works better? Which system do you like more? So we assign the same readings. So all students will read the same readings, and then they will get prepared for their own arguments. So on Sunday, November 8th, we will meet. Actually, this is Sunday because my class accommodate our schedule to Dr. Park's class. So this meeting time falls into Dr. Park's actual class time. So I only accommodate my schedule this time. But on the following week, Dr. Park's class accommodates his schedule. So this meeting falls into my regular class time, and Dr. Park takes turn to take his accommodation. And we will talk about plurality versus proportional representation. Which election system works better? What are the pros and cons of these systems? These debates work perfectly, particularly this year, maybe, because we will have presidential election next week. So students will have more attention about presidentialism and electoral systems. So this is really fun. These are our brief schedules. And what are we gonna do for our ice breaking? So I prepared. Okay, I'm sorry. I prepared. Okay, excuse me. I want to show my bingo. That's for some reasons. Okay. I prepared the bingo plate. So I put all students' names in English, and students will have that bingo plate on their hand, and they will play bingo game. And we will have breakout groups in with 3 persons only in each breakout session, and then they will have to answer 3 questions. How to pronounce their full names, because Korean names are not easy to pronounce. So they have to practice until they got okay from the Korean students and the American students, vice versa. So how to pronounce their full names perfectly, and where they are from, and what is the one thing that you like about United States or Korea. Once they get all the answers, they can cross out the names. Then they will have only 1 minute and then 3 minutes per each session. And then we will have another automatic breakout group for 3 minute sessions. So if they meet new people, then once they figured out all these questions, then they cross out another names. And we will do 3 minute session, continuously until somebody claims bingo. Then the session will stop, and the bingo students will have a chance to introduce the students on the straight line all together. So he has the privilege to introduce all 5 students. Then the rest of the students will introduce themselves. So this is the ice-breaking session for 30 minutes. And then so we thought before having the international debates on heavy topics, presidentialism versus parliamentarism, and plurality versus, proportional representation, we thought this ice-breaking session with bingo games can relax them, these people, and get to know them each other, so that they can be more, comfortable in the following weeks. Dr. Park, do you want to continue?
Okay, can you go back to the PowerPoint presentations for me?
Oh, this is it.
Really?
The informal class exchange.
I cannot see the screen actually. I'm not sure what's wrong with my screen, but I cannot see
Oh,
Actually,
No, it's not just your screen. In Kyung, we're seeing an email that Wing Kai sent to the university, not your PowerPoint.
oh my gosh. Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I sent you a chat, but you probably.
Ah, let me share. What about now?
yeah.
Do you see the email?
Yeah. Now we see your PowerPoint.
Yeah,
Oh,
PowerPoint.
okay.
Yeah.
These were what I was talking about. So international partners and
Yeah.
international debates and 3 meetings in weeks. Okay. I'm glad you know, Dr. Park, you mentioned.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually, I do not have a control over this slide, so I think you still need to
Sure.
help me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the classes that the Ingyang have been talk about is actually like a example of informal class exchange, as I understand it. So they are both sides hold some separate independent classes, and then the instructors decide to share some of the contents with each other, of which overlap with each other. And I think the Karen and Naoki also have been doing some similar stuff, although way more advanced than ours, because we are just in the beginning, right? And actually, we have not started yet. So this is going to be very flexible form of class exchanges, as we understand, because since we have the separate classes, we don't need to go through any some administrative issues. So it's kind of totally separate classes, which gives the instructors and students some of the wide range of flexibility. But some challenge with this kind of exchange is going to be like this. So the classes must match, right, each other. So like in our cases, I'm doing American politics, whereas the Ingyong is doing comparative politics, where we found some portions of our class contents overlap with each other. Either if the instructors from the both universities are teaching the same identical classes or dealing with some same topics. So this is going to be some kind of restrictions that we are going to have to make this kind of informal class exchange possible. So in that sense, we have some kind of limitations in terms of the applicability of this kind of idea to a wide range of the possible cases. And another thing that we found some challenging is that because the Korea and the United States are way away from each other, right? Across the very big Pacific Oceans. As I understand, we have, as of today, like 13 hours differences. And if we're going to enter November, it's going to be 14-hour differences. So it's going to be technically challenging, although we've found it very, very happy that the students from both sides kindly agreed to make themselves available for very challenging hours. So it's going to be like the early in the morning in Korea. That time translates to the very late time in the evening, like that, right? So there's going to be some structural challenges that we need to deal with, right? And what we are also interested in is that building on the success of the informal class exchanges, if we go to the, move to the next slide, we could have some more formalized class exchanges. And then I think Mike mentioned about this possibility in the beginning very briefly. So here we are going to have, for example, each side will offer some online classes for students from both universities. So for example, both BSU University student and Yonsei University student can register for these classes. So like one online class from Yonsei University and one online class from BSU if we are going to have some agreement. So And once a student from both sides take this class, the classes will be freely transferred to their home universities. So this is going to be the format we are also interested in developing in near future. The benefit of this kind of exchange is going to be actually we can provide a student while you are in the United States, you will be given some virtual learning opportunities whereby you can interact with instructors and students in foreign countries. So this is going to be work for especially for students who wants to have that kind of exposure, but still find themselves not being able to find some times to be actually physically there for some reasons, right? So this will provide these types of students a very great opportunities to pursue this kind of interaction, international exposure while they are physically residing in their hometown. And it will be particularly making sense, especially these days, like the global pandemic crisis. So we are interested in moving on to these more formalized exchange programs like next year or something. Actually, Yonsei University has been doing this kind of exchanges for other universities in Korea. So Yonsei student can take any courses from other Korean universities who have some agreement, and then their credits are going to be automatically transferred to Yonsei University. So I'm kind of wondering if we can model our exchanges on this existing one and expand the scope of these exchanges globally. But here the challenge is that our program is mostly based upon actually in person, in class courses, participating physically in other universities and then take classes from there and then get their credits transferred to their home universities. But here, this exchange is going to be based upon online. So I'm not sure how much additional administrative issues that we are going to have for this. But the dean of my college is very, very open to discuss any kind of possibilities that can promote this kind of online exchanges. So if the BSc is going to be also ready, I think we can start in a very good mood for these more formalized exchange programs.
Thank you so much, Dr. Park.
Mhm.
Our conclusion, every move matters. This kind of new idea comes out of nowhere. It's not. Every single move matters. When I introduced this new kind of a virtual exchange, I didn't start with, international debate nights. I started with the conversation. Let's talk about one good benefit of this virtual life. We started to talk about they don't need to get dressed up in the early morning class. We don't have to travel, reducing carbon footprints and things like that. So we built up some, positive atmosphere. And I asked if they can we meet on Sunday night? They said, sure. So every move matters. Thank you for listening.
Gabbar, can you follow up as the moderator?
Thank you so much for this enlightening presentations. And I think I just would like to follow up on a few things that some of you raised in the chat. This is especially for us here in BSU. It's new, and I know our partners, whether it's from India or from Morocco or from South Korea or from Japan, they have probably, especially Japan, they have more experience with this. but let's put our kind of fear aside. Every a new venture needs two things, two elements. One is commitment. And commitment is not just institutional commitment. Because if we're going to say institutional commitment, then we'll be looking for, probably the top and their communication with us. It's really the wonderful element about this virtual exchange is based on individual relationship. So if you have friends abroad, go ahead and talk with them about this, share this recording with them, share with, thanks to John, the wonderful two videos and also the presentations, because it starts from dyadic. It's interpersonal communication and two level of communication between two individuals, you and your partner there. That's one element. The second element is, I know also in the chat, what they said is, how about, how we're going to match this to the general curriculum in a particular department or in a course. The course, as John also mentioned, and thank you for clarifying that, the course is still yours, is an independent course. But what you're going to do is take some of the content. It could be part of the syllabi, it could be outside of the syllabi. It's no problem, because this is really the essence of the virtual exchange, is to communicate across the difference. So there is a language barrier, and we should not be holding that against our own interests. But this barrier can be easily overcome by so many things, including translation or Google translation. But the students are very, very smart when you give them some ownership. You bring them to make their own assignment, at least in the very beginning. And the third element I would like to say, don't think is 14 weeks or 13 weeks or 10 weeks. The maximum is 10 weeks. But you can start with up to 4 times where you can meet with your students and your faculty, as we saw with Karen and Nukai, their presentation very clear. So the idea is, especially in BSU, and thanks to Wankai and also to Provost Ismaili, now we are going into this direction to introduce this concept. We will be holding workshops. We will look for grants, because we need some financial help with this. But COVID-19, for at least for me as a teacher, I think offers me an opportunity to think, as the typical phrase, out of the box. So we are now thinking out of the box to really engage our friends, our partners abroad, and especially students, librarians, faculty, staff. With that, I would like to read this question, or at least summarize it for John. Is I just mentioned it, how to match these, let's say, one course from Tokyo and one course from BSU with the general curriculum.
Great, thank you, Jabbar, and thank you, all of you, for your presentations. It was wonderful to see how that project from the US-Japan lab has moved forward, and also to see the evolving project between BSU and Korea there. Before I jump into your question, Jabbar, I just want to clarify a few things that I mentioned in the chat for those who are following the chat. Although we often say virtual exchange COIL courses, really we mean enhancements to courses. It's very rare that a virtual exchange or COIL involves the entire course on either or both sides of the partnership. So in most cases, you're talking about a collaboration in the middle of an existing course. And we recommend a minimum of about 3 to 4 weeks, so your students have some time to develop relationships, develop trust, and move beyond icebreaker and sort of getting to know each other activities to actually working together collaboratively. We feel that's where the deeper learning takes place, is when they have to create something together. And I also mentioned in the chat, it's very common in the beginning days to think, I teach you know, sociology 101, I need to find another sociology 101 professor to work with. It's one of the most common misconceptions that we see with folks new to this field. But actually, some of the most exciting and interesting projects are the ones that are interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary. I've seen, you know, partnerships that are very diverse, involving professors coming from very different disciplinary perches, because they're still teaching their students their own content within the courses. The students, in effect, can be learning different things, but apply that knowledge together in a collaborative activity that's specifically designed to draw upon the different knowledge that both of those students are developing. And then the other piece I wanted to mention is don't be afraid to do this type of work with someone you haven't worked on with before. Although Karen and Dr. Suzuki have a really strong relationship and have had a chance to meet in person many times, many cases, actually, this is the way that people start relationships. The same way you may start relationships in doing a research project together or co-authoring a paper, virtual exchange can be a way to develop new relationships around the world as well. Jabbar, please rephrase your question for me.
Yeah,
how do we integrate it into the curriculum?
Yeah, how you match these virtual courses with the general curriculum.
Yeah.
The question raised by actually
Sure.
Saifuddin from Morocco
Indeed.
and Dr. Khalil.
Some of it goes back to the first points that I was making of your, in general, adapting your curriculum. In some cases, changing some of your readings, changing some of the materials that you present, maybe changing some of the activities or the work that your students are doing, but you're not completely overhauling or you know, changing everything that's there. Partly in context of many institutions, the syllabus and the readings to some degree, and even some of the activities may be decided at a department level or even at an institutional level. You may not have as much flexibility in some institutional or national contexts. So you have to be flexible and open and think about the ways that you can adapt and which pieces of your course and or program that you can adapt. And I would say in most cases, this is still relatively young and is involving maybe 1 or 2 courses within a program, not an entire program yet. There are some new programs that are being designed that are starting to think about integrating virtual exchange from the beginning. But again, in most cases, when you're thinking about curriculum on a program or degree level, in most cases, this involves 1 or 2 of the courses within there. And some of our colleagues here from a teaching perch may have some ideas that they want to share as well about how they've adapted it into their course.
Yeah, Karen and Nkai, do you have anything to add? Karen?
Karen, me?
Yes.
Great. No, well, I would just, in terms of, you know, sort of things to add, I think that, you know, kind of the possibilities are endless. And I do agree, it seems like this would be a very powerful way to actually start a connection with someone internationally, because when we come together around the things that we really care so much about, you know, the ideas in our, you know, in our academic world. And I think that most of us are committed to, you know, making sure that our students have perspectives that are informed from, you know, really a worldview. So we just encourage faculty to sort of take the step. I was really thrilled with all the resources that are available. Again, we're not the first person in doing virtual exchange. The things that John has provided in the chat are really strong resources. So I just couldn't encourage people enough to take the step. And it's, again, it might be a really safe step if folks have not done work internationally, because it's very rich. So thank you.
Yeah.
I think,
Dr. Wankaito, some of the questions related to what's the next step in terms of our side, BSU. Are we going to go and talk about this, go through governance process? What's your thinking?
If I answer this question, just a quick follow-up about Karen's point about why we're doing this as another model for international learning, because as you know, we do a lot of study abroad and also having a lot of international students. What we would like to create is really a cross-cultural skills and also global citizenship on our campus. So instead of just thinking about how the 2 courses can correlate to each other, we think about what is the goal of our teaching of our learning in the university. So developing global citizenship is one of the goals for our university. So we can do it in our content-based classes, but we can also create learning opportunities between students. That's why a lot of faculty have been taking students abroad for 2 weeks, in their travel courses, so that they can meet the local citizens and local students on a day-to-day basis and work with them closely. So Karen actually did that before with Laoki in Japan, and their students come here for 1 week. Our students went there for 1 week, and they work together on that same model that they're trying to do right now on building a curriculum, building a project. So I think that's really another way of thinking about how students can do teamwork, can work together and collaborate with each other. So again, I think John raised the point about COIL enhanced courses, and our goal is to really to identify a number of courses that could be called full COIL enhanced courses, or just virtual exchange sample courses. So the difference is that a COIL enhanced course would connect to a 4 to 8 weeks kind of model that Karen and Naoki were doing. And on the other hand, just a virtual exchange model courses or sample courses would be like what Inkong and Sun are doing right now. So it doesn't really connect to 4 weeks. I know there are a lot of faculty are interested in bringing other professors to lecture for their classes as guest lecturers. And that could be another way of meeting the other students. If you can create a room for both classes together, and then have breakout rooms for students to discuss with each other about the learning from their faculty members. So that's another way that could be a part of our virtual exchanges. So we are going to encourage faculty to propose COIL, fully COIL enhanced courses or COIL sample courses, virtual exchange sample courses in the spring semester. I know that the time is very tight right now, so only the people who really wanted to develop those courses, they can do that. But the idea is to really continue to follow up in the spring semester. As you mentioned, we're going to have some guest speakers and workshops again in the spring semester. And then the courses will be listed under the Minute Institute, and some of them might be identified as a special COIL courses. So that's the goal right now.
Great.
Yeah.
So Bar, if I could make a few comments, that would be wonderful.
Please.
Okay, just to follow up on a few things from Wing Kai there. One, yeah, don't be afraid to start small. Although we strongly, recommend those 3 to 4 week type of minimums. That's for, once you're still and ready to go to a full virtual exchange. But in many cases, professors start with, such as a model we saw in the second panelist there, of having more shared course activities, some shared course lectures, build their relationships, build their working patterns together, and then look to expand that in future semesters. Please don't try to do everything and all of your ideas at the first time. It's often a very strong recipe for a disaster is trying to do too much. So keep it simple. And the other piece I wanted to build on, which relates to one of the comments in the chat that I didn't comment on as well, is how this relates to study abroad. Particularly in the US, there's been a trend towards shorter and shorter study abroad programs, 2-3 weeks, sometimes even less. Think of the potential of how effective that short-term study abroad period could be if before that time you're going abroad, your students are already doing some work together with students in the location where you're going to be bringing them, and potentially doing some work with those students on their way back. You can leverage that short term that you have them physically in country into a much more intensive and longer term learning experience through virtual exchange and COIL. And the other piece related to that I want to say is the students do develop real relationships in these virtual exchanges that often continue well after the time that they're working together with you, the same way that they would through study abroad. They'll connect through WhatsApp, they'll connect through Facebook. I actually know of one course between one of the SUNY campuses and a university in Amsterdam where the students enjoyed working together so much they decided actually to plan their own trip to meet up together in New York City over the Christmas break at New Year's because they wanted to meet each other in person. And one of the students was smart enough to say, hey, wait, let's not even tell the professors about this because then the campuses will get involved and administrative complexities will come in because we're not doing this officially. We're doing this because we're becoming friends and we want to make that relationship stronger. And so they really can lead to, quote, real world type relationships that the students maintain for some time. Thank you, Jabbar, for letting me jump in.
No, it's okay. Thank you, John, for this. Well said. As Wenkai knows, we already receive a lot of responses from our partners around the world. And I know from MENA area, we have Morocco, the Sidi Mohammed bin Abdullah University. And I know we have one of our colleagues is already on the call. They would like to start that with the management. They actually identified which area they want to collaborate on. And also I know, and with us also from Jordan, the associate director of, and assistant to the president of TTU, they would like to explore this option. So there are a lot of interest, and I know a lot of my colleagues, I see them on the screen, that they are thinking of doing this in spring. So as Wenkai mentioned, we will work very closely with our colleagues here and abroad to make sure that they start something that they have interest in, and the key word is flexibility. That's really the thing. Be flexible and start small, but think big about it. And we have probably 5 minutes to closing. If anyone have a burning comments or question, we'll allow that to happen now.
I have mute yourself and ask questions. Yeah, or raise your hands. Yeah.
Yeah. I have two brief comments. We can get two huge benefits. One, sustainability. We can reduce the carbon footprint significantly. Think about this morning, coming from 6 different countries, but we didn't emit any one CO2 emission. Number two, social justice. Any students can take advantage of this opportunity without spending any penny. Thank you.
Can I add one more minor thing on top of what just In-kyung talked about this? Actually, when I started this kind of idea with In-kyung, I didn't have any big idea. I mean, the In-kyung was one of my close friends, and I just figured that it's going to be fun to both of us. But these days, I'm kind of increasingly finding that this has a lot of potentials. So for example, from the perspective of universities, right? They can expand the diversity of their curriculums for their students without hiring new faculty members. Everyone knows that universities do not have a lot of money, right? So this is going to be a good way to diversify their core curriculums for their students. And on top of that, I totally agree with what just In-kyung talked about. This is going to be very good for students who wants to have some international exposures, but for some reasons find themselves not be able to, right, have actual presence, physical presence in foreign countries. So this is going to be very, very good for some justice, right, for the students.
That's right. So it's a way actually also
Professor
to invite
Jabbar,
students.
can I make?
It's a way to invite
Professor
students.
Jabbar, can I make a point one
Yeah,
second?
I just want to finish this. It's a way to invite the students also to contribute to the content. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, Professor. I think I agree with the fact some of my colleagues have mentioned the concept of social justice. See, collaborative learning in global online education is a boon for social justice, especially in the developing situation. In case of developing countries, this virtual education, which we have very clearly seen, the future of education lies with collaborative learning via technology. Because as all of us know, the concept of social justice needs to be strengthened. So this has come as a boon, and I think I have to congratulate both Professor Jabbar and Professor Wenkai of Bridgewater State University for taking this forward. And on behalf of Bangalore University and India, I think we will also participate in this, and we look forward in having some of the workshops, and definitely exchange of curriculum will happen. We'll all work together, Professor. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
No, thank you, Professor Ravi. We have one last question, and then I will turn it to Dr. Wankai to give a closing short remarks. Yes, Diana, please.
Yes. Hello, everybody. It's great
Hi.
to be here and learn from you, because I'm thinking of doing this next semester with some colleagues at the University of West Indies in Trinidad. And the question, or the point about social justice, raised a question for me. I'm wondering if there have been any situations where there's been some differences of opinion around some themes that are potentially controversial. For example, not controversial from a social justice perspective, but from the perspective of individuals. For example, my class next semester on gender and sexuality cross-culturally has a foundational idea of human rights for gender and sexually diverse persons. And in the Caribbean, that is still quite a challenging issue. So I'm wondering if you've had any experience with challenging topics, differences of opinions, conflicts, and how you've dealt with that.
Okay, John, could you answer this question just quickly, and then we send it to Wankai? Yes, go ahead.
Sure, I would say that topic could be its own 90-minute meeting out there. But I will say often confusions, misconceptions, stereotypes, diversity of opinions can lead to, I'll say, conflicting opinions and sometimes heated exchange and debate in a COIL exchange course, the same way that they can in your in-person course. And that's, I think, where it's vital for the teachers to have a strong presence in those discussions and dialogues that are going on, and be as open as possible to your students in knowing that they can come and speak to you and let you know if there's some challenges within their group settings, if there's some challenges within the course, trying to create an atmosphere of openness and flexibility and the willingness for everyone to share freely, even if that may sometimes result in conflict, and then try to break down that conflict, try to break down what are the underlying themes that are creating that challenges there, and share with your students that you're on the same journey as them, with your professor, that you're all in this community together, and it's through working together and sharing together that we can advance the learning goals that you have in your course.
Thank you, Jai. And send it to Wankai. Wankai.
Thank you so much. This is really encouraging and very inspiring to hear so many perspectives from all the faculty and guests, and also participants in the audience, as we are all trying to deal with the new reality in our online learning and hybrid learning model. I think you know, it creates new opportunities for our students and students all over the world. I know that it's not just for study abroad students, it's for our international students too. Sometimes we cannot bring as many international students coming here. And then we open up our world to other countries and actually learn from other countries. And other countries can learn from, you know, some of the things we do well. So it's a really two-way process. So instead of just trying to go there for a short time and not developing the real relationship, you try to spend a few weeks and try to work together. And so both sides can learn from each other in a more sustainable way. So again, we'll continue the conversation and work with all the other universities. And on behalf of Bridgewater State University, I wanted to thank everyone for waking up early and staying up late in Japan, Korea, and China. And also, you know, during your dinner time in India and your almost dinner time in Jordan. So, so please have the good rest of the semester, and we'll be in touch. So if you have any questions about COIL, please don't hesitate to contact me or Jabbar or Mike or Jen Curry, our team at the Milner Institute for Global Engagement. We'll start working with Dr. Cindy King from the Office of Teaching and Learning, and Dr. Pamela Russell, and also all the faculty members and the global programs. And we'll do it right. We'll get a lot of input from all of you. And I'm looking forward to having meetings with China, India, and Jordan and Morocco to consider what we can do. And also faculty, if you have other relationship with other countries that are not our international partners, please bring the idea to us and we can continue to explore those relationships as well. So it's not just limited to our partner universities. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Wenkai, and we'll be sharing the recording with all of you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Dr. Iwata.
See you next time.
See you next time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, John.
Nice to see you, Buthina.
Thank you, Buthina. Thank you, Khalil. Thank you, Saif.
Sure. I'm happy to stay on for a few moments if you want to
Yes,
stop the
yes,
recording.
okay,
And
okay,
thank you,
yeah,
Charlie.
we are on.
Wenkai, would you like to stop the recording or I can do it here? I see it.
Yeah.
We can't stop the recording, okay.